guys are already in the groove of school, the first couple of periods. Are you guys okay with the groove of school, or was it just hard to get back into action here?
Nothing really happened.
So it's just like business as usual, huh? Okay, well, yes.
Can I go to my locker and ask my pencil?
No, you can borrow a pencil.
Okay.
So, with the beginning of period four, what do I even talk about? With the beginning of quarter 4 on Monday, this is our final week for quarter 3. We're also having park testing this week and next week, so we're going to miss a couple of class periods in this class. So just be advised of that. It is also a new month, so we have a new historical hero of the month. Paula, you got nominated and selected, so congratulations.
What's nominated?
The teachers. All teachers. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. We're jumping into a continuation of the unit that we left off with before we went on spring break. Let's recap a little bit. So we left off talking about War of 1812. Who can tell me what War of 1812 was about, or who was involved, or what were the tensions? Let's start with, what was it about? Or who was involved? Let's start there. War of 1812. What nations are involved? Yes?
America, Britain, and France.
America and Britain and France. So Britain and France are at war with one another. It's the Napoleonic Wars in Europe. And those wars end, and we've got the War of 1812 happening in America between Britain and America. Who else is Britain aiding to help in the war?
France. All Native Americans.
The Native Americans. Good. So let's look at the map really quickly. On the map, we see that the white settlers are trying to move westward, right? They're trying to expand westward. And who lives there in that territory? Native Americans, right? And obviously the Native Americans have a claim to their land. They're not going to go willingly and give up that territory. They're going to fight. And they were able to form this Indian nation and ally themselves with the British, who of course are in Canada for fishing and mostly fur trapping, which they're making a lot of money doing. They don't want Americans to suddenly start taking that available resource from them. So they think the Native Americans, who of course have a huge investment in keeping their territory, is going to really help deter the Americans from moving westward and allow the British to keep more land for their resources. And also the natives would be able to keep their land to continue to live on as they had for generations. So, in the end, we know that the United States wins. What are some national symbols that come out of the War of 1812? Well,
The national anthem, the Pledge of Independence.
perfect. So, the national anthem is written as a poem with the defense of Fort McHenry. Francis Scott Key is on that ship trying to get his friend released, and all of a sudden this bombardment starts happening, and he's really looking for what symbol to see if America still has the control of that fort. The flag, right. So there's this gigantic flag that's hoisted up 90 feet in the air, and he's able to write a poem that eventually is going to become our national anthem. So when we leave off the War of 1812, there's a big American fervor in nationalism. Americans are really amped up because they defeated the British for a second time. They've really solidified their place on the map and their place as a power in the world. They defeated for the second time the most powerful military in the world, and that's something to be proud of as Americans. They're sort of like a budding country that, just got a huge boost in their self-esteem and morale. So with that nationalism, Americans are full force trying to move westward, right? They want to expand, and they're going to continue to expand, and we're going to get into this idea of manifest destiny. Has anybody heard that before? Manifest destiny?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Do you know?
It's basically like where Americans dreamed of ruling from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean.
Perfect. Manifest destiny. Americans feel that it's their God-given right to control all of the North American continent from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. And obviously, it comes to fruition, right? Since we all own 50 states that create that manifest destiny for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so So let's still focus in a little bit about one particular figure that we didn't spend too much time talking about, Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is going to become president after the War of 1812, but he really gets his footing and foundation as a military leader in the War of 1812, and even before. At a really young age, age 13, he is fighting in the American Revolution. And what happens is he gets captured by the British at 13 years old, and he is forced into a camp, and he's asked to shine a soldier's shoe, and he refuses. So what do you think happens to him?
He gets beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. He got abused physically, and that kind of resonated in him, and it also fed his anger towards and hatred towards the British. Another thing that he experienced, coming from really humble, common upbringings, his parents were immigrants. He wasn't wealthy or educated as a young boy. He also watched his mother and two of his brothers be killed in these British camps during the Revolution. So that's another component that really fueled the hatred that he had towards the British. And so when he brings those kind of feelings towards the War of 1812, and the British are his enemy, he's going to be very violent, and he's going to be very ruthless in terms of being able to defeat them. And that's really going to motivate him to want to fight and not give up. Secondly, he was the military leader in the Battle of New Orleans. So we watched a documentary on the War of 1812, and we looked a little bit at the Battle of New Orleans. Where is New Orleans located?
Above Florida.
Louisiana, Gulf of Mexico, okay? So we know that Louisiana doesn't exist at the time, but New Orleans port does. It's at the mouth of the Mississippi River. And Andrew Jackson is going to battle against some British forces down there. And he really has that motivation from his background, hatred towards the British, but he also is a very stern and powerful leader. He's got a nice group of soldiers that are willing to fight for him. And he also has the advantage of geography. And in the location of that battle at New Orleans, he was able to trap the British between a swamp and the Mississippi River. So where did the British have to retreat to?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. And he was able to pick them off one by one, and they were able to really defeat the British military, which was much more advanced, much more powerful, much more well-trained and drilled in the art of being a soldier. So that sort of, really propels him to stardom. He's a huge celebrity. And because he has such common background, he sort of becomes a celebrity of the common people. And when he is voted for president, common people vote for him because they really celebrate his bravery and his achievements at the Battle of New Orleans. So where we're picking up is Andrew Jackson is now president of the United States. And Andrew Jackson, in his background, also had a lot of wars with the Native Americans. So he really came from this area here, where settlement wasn't very popular, but he really wanted and believed in that idea of westward expansion. So when he's president, who do you think he's not really going to care about as he's trying to move America west?
To the natives.
The natives. So that brings us to our ballot question. Describe what you know about the Trail of Tears. And here's a picture, a painting of, one rendition of the Trail of Tears. What do you think is happening on the Trail of Tears? Damon?
Forcing the natives on their land.
Absolutely. He's forcing the Native Americans off their land. So the southeastern region, like Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, all different kinds of Native American groups, the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Creek, Seminoles, are getting forced off their lands. So in 1830, the Indian Removal Act is passed to force those natives off the land. What, can you tell me, was the land needed for? In the southern region of the United States, southeast region. Plantations, absolutely, and specifically what crop is being grown? Cotton. Sugarcane is in the Caribbean. Cotton. Cotton makes so much money for the United States. We still know that slavery is in existence, and those plantation fields, as they're growing, cotton is becoming a very popular and easy to grow crop. What machine was able to allow cotton to be picked and cleaned faster? The cotton gin. The cotton gin. Have you guys heard of the cotton gin? Eli Whitney, cotton gin. Okay, so the cotton gin had been invented. It allows the cotton to be cleaned a lot quicker, and so cotton plantations are springing up all over the place. It's a huge lucrative way for the United States to make money. In addition to cotton, the discovery of gold. There was gold in Georgia. So that's of course going to help attract settlers into that land as well. Gold, we often think of as the California gold rush in the 1849, 1848, 1850. But we don't think about gold that's on the East Coast. And there was gold in Georgia, there was some gold in Florida, there was some gold in the Carolinas as well. So those were sort of our first gold rushes that really kicked the natives off the land, forced the settlers to want to settle there, all for profit, right? And these are not people who are elite, trying to settle a plantation. These are, common folk that don't have a great upbringing, and this is a really good opportunity to make something for themselves. Okay, so let's go ahead and jot down our notes. Describe what you know about the Trail of Tears. We know that it's the Native Americans being removed from their lands, and they're going to be settling in what's modern-day Oklahoma. Modern-day Oklahoma. So if you think about the terrain Oklahoma might have, what kind of terrain or what kind of climate do you think Oklahoma has compared to Florida, for example? It's colder. It's what? Dry, right? So it's going to be difficult to maybe grow crops. It's dusty. There could be a lot of different climate issues. And along the trail, are the natives, getting put up in a Motel 8 every night? No. Statistically speaking, there's about one grave for every mile along the trail. There's 800 miles in that trail. So you can imagine how many people died carrying their belongings, walking through the winter, being harassed, disease spreading, sickness, no medicine, and all under military control. So you could see military soldiers. Well, this is a forceful removal. Forceful removal. All right, so let's go ahead and jot down our notes. Okay, forced removal of natives to modern Oklahoma. Okay, here's a picture of Andrew Jackson. Alright, so we're going to be focusing really on the Trail of Tears. Today we're going to be reading about and getting introduced to a couple of different Native American groups that were forced into the Trail of Tears. And then we're going to be looking at a poem to really get a good perspective and an understanding of how these Native Americans felt as they traveled along. We're also going to be really looking at how the soldiers felt as well, because not everybody was in support of Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act. Alright, does everyone have a handout? Okay, so Jackson's policy toward Native Americans. main ones that participated in the Trail of Tears?
Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and the Seminole.
Okay, perfect. Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. And as Elizabeth was reading, what did you hear her mention that these tribes were assimilating to? Yes. Yes, they adopted parts of white culture. So stop and ask yourself, why would the government, the American government, force these natives off the land if they're acting white, if they're dressing white, if they're farming white, if they're writing white? Why would they want to still remove these people off their land? What do you think? What do you think?
Maybe because even though they know that they've been acting well, they recognize that they're still not like them. They're not white.
They're still different, right, Sophia?
They just see them as that.
See them as a threat? Absolutely. Well, did you have something different?
Yeah.
What?
Not everyone still respects them.
Yeah, Native Americans aren't valued as much as white landowning elite people are, especially men. And of course, the resources. If you've got to share your resources on that land, the gold, the fertile soil, with another group of people, that means that there's less for the white settlers. So let's get them out of here because we want that resource for ourselves. Okay, Lily, read for